My name is Jill Arend. I am the Administrator for Data Management and Application Development at the Nebraska Department of Education. Unlike Chris, my boss, I don't have a long employment history. I have been at NDE for over 29 years now. Started out in the area of school finance. Thank you. Moved over into application development and eventually into data, and now I lead the teams that do our application development, our data warehousing, and, as you guys know, all of our advisor stuff. So I am going to start out our plenary session today, give you a few things to mull over. A lot of what I'm going to talk about will also have a lot more detail in my session tomorrow, but I'll give you a brief introduction to that. And then we will have both Naomi and Max come up and give you some more information. So let's go ahead and get started. Little bit, here's our quick rundown of our agenda for today. Systems involve youth. We talked about this at the data conference last year and also at NDE Day. We've got a lot more information for you now. So we're going to be sharing that information, a little bit about the literacy screeners and the changes that are happening there and how that might impact data. And then I'm going to give you a quick, very brief update on the statewide longitudinal data system grant that we are still operating under. And then we'll have Naomi come up and talk about the new portal, which we hope you all enjoying. And then Max will come up and finish out the session with some additional information about person ID and advisor. And then we'll be able to take some questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So, systems involved youth. Like I said, I talked about this last year at the data conference, but at that time the bill actually I'm not even sure if it had passed yet or if it had just passed. So we were still taking a look at the information in there, trying to figure out what it is we're needing to do. In the last year, a lot has been done. We have hired a full-time person to head up our systems involved youth information. We have hired one registrar. We're getting ready to hire another one. Both of these are required by LB 296 and the information on systems involved youth. And we've gotten together and come up with a couple of names. You're going to start hearing about these systems. The first one is Rise Strong Nebraska, and that's the entire implementation of what we need to do under this bill and in order to assist these kids. It's everything from the data system to what the registrars do to how they work with you, the diplomas, etc. Within that is RISE SI, and that is the records integration supporting educations for system-involved youth. That's basically the data system. And as I've mentioned before at other places, if you've heard me, this is a combination of some new data systems that we're writing and the data that we already have in Advisor. A lot of the data that we need by the law, what was passed, is data that is already in Advisor or can be stored in Advisor, so we're not going to write a new system for that. But we also have to identify which students or which youth fall under this bill. And remember, it's all students who are under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court. That is both those involved in court cases, they've gotten in trouble with the law, but also any of the kids who are foster. That is quite a few kids in the state, and a lot of districts will have at least one kid involved in those. So we have to be able to get the information from the courts, from probation, DHHS, and identify the kids. So that's one of the things we have been working on. We are working with those agencies to get data sharing agreements in order to get that information. And we will then be able to share certain information at certain times. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And like I said, we have hired one registrar. We are hiring two of them in order to take care of this work. I'm going to talk a little bit more tomorrow about what they're going to be doing. One thing they will be doing is working on credits for some of these students who could potentially graduate under the new state diploma. So it is a lot, and we still have a lot left to do. We do not have all the answers. We will not have all of them when the school year starts. But we have come a long way in the last year. Some of it's just going to be a matter, we need to get the registrars in and talk to them, and some of it's going to be things we discover as the year goes on that no one had thought of because we haven't actually done this work yet. So, and how you guys, if you are a registrar at your district, you're going to be involved because you may have to work with our registrars on some of these students. If you're the data steward, we have to get good data in because there is something in the law that requires us to provide data immediately, although they did not define immediately. But it requires the data to be provided immediately upon the enrollment of a student. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do that tomorrow also. The next topic I want to talk about very briefly, and our Chief Literacy Officer, Jamie Cook, is also here. And as you might have heard, they are moving to a single reading screener. And my hope, and this is not a promise, but it is my hope, is that we will be able to get a contract with the provider for MDibles. MDibles, is that right? M-Class, sorry, see, I don't usually work with this stuff. So that we can actually get some of this data directly into Advisor system the way we currently get data from NWEA. So if we can do that, combined with a change that Max will talk to you about, there's actually that reading collection that we're doing, we'd be able to eliminate by using that data. So that is one of our goals. It would also obviously give us a lot more really good data for the CLSD grant and for all of the other literacy projects we're working on, including our strategic priorities. So we are still working on that. If you want to know more about what our approved assessments are and where they are, I did put a link there. So you can just also go to our website and search for reading screeners. You'll be able to find that information. And then finally, if you have been to these before, you know that NDE has received a statewide longitudinal data system grant from the federal government. We are currently in year 3 of that grant. There is a lot of things that we are doing. It did focus also on system-involved youth, but it also focused on improving our person ID system and the new portal. So all of this is work that we're continuing to do under the grant. We are basically braiding funds from both state funds and these federal funds in order to accomplish these tasks. Some of the portal building has been done under the statewide longitudinal data system grant. And that has really helped us to hopefully build a portal that will last long past when I leave the department. A long time from now, right? Hopefully it'll last. The last one lasted 20 years, and it lasted too long. We should have replaced it earlier. We hope to have built something that will actually be able to grow and change as technology changes, as security requirements change. We want to be able to continue using this portal for those purposes. So Naomi, though, will be the one talking to you about that. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce her now. This is Naomi Colas. You guys might know her name. She is the head of our service desk, and she is going to give you more information on the new portal. Yes.
So while we're looking at this screen, I just wanted Jill to be up here because I want more money for the new portal to keep making enhancements for y'all.
Yes.
So let's try and find funding for it, okay? There you go.
Thank you.
That's my spiel. No, the new, I'll get to the next slide here. The new portal, I think we got it launched. We went on our road shows. Everything went, I thought, pretty good. I was just talking to Scott about some of the SSO challenges we had at first, but those have kind of subsided. We're still building out enhancements, though, in the new portal. We're still finding bugs. So it's not totally done, and as y'all know, we're still in Legacy Portal, and we will be for a little while. So it's not totally gone. So Jill, like maybe 25 years the Legacy Portal will last? I don't know, we'll see. So I thought we'll just quick kind of run over a few new portal things. Jill suggested some statistics, which is kind of fun. I pulled those together, and then talk through some terminology, talk about some of the transitions from Legacy to new portal, and then just a few helpful tips from Kim and Stacy, who filled a lot of our new portal questions, and then talk through some of those enhancements. So here's kind of the fun stuff I put together. So when I ran this data, it was like a couple weeks ago. In 2025, we had 3,400 accounts created in the new portal. Like, that's a lot of emails, y'all. Just this year, it's only been like 324, so not a huge amount. And there's still, of those accounts, there's still 106 who haven't actually logged in. So maybe superintendents created accounts and then the people never logged in because they haven't had to work in it yet. We have 470 district administrators in the new portal. So that's your superintendents, your non-public principals, people who are managing access for the new portal for their schools. 255 of those are from public districts, 178 are from non-public schools, and then the rest are like ESU, special purpose, and Rule 18. Now, I think this number is kind of low. We only have 99 proxy admins, and I feel like that's an opportunity for superintendents who are looking at assistance for managing portal access at their schools. That's a functionality that maybe you might be interested in getting assistance with managing user access requests, assigning access to new users as they start at the school. And then I pulled one statistic with probably the biggest application currently in the new portal, Advisor Person ID, and there are 2,500 plus users with access to that application. So that just goes to show you how much y'all are working and in the systems using the collections and the applications, and I thought that was a really interesting one. Some of the terminology you've probably heard the service desk use, but if you haven't, we're kind of changing how our messaging goes. So when I talk about legacy, you'll hear me say collections, because that's what we call them in legacy. But with new portal, we're calling them applications. So if you get a message from me and it says something about DHHS superintendent letter collection, it's because it's in legacy still, but we're moving it over to new portal soon, probably in the next couple months, and we'll call it the DHHS superintendent letter application. So that hopefully is kind of a keyword phrase so you know where to go. In the new portal, we have SSO, so single sign-on for most of our public districts, some of our non-publics, definitely our ESU users. We have EdOrg, which is basically your district or your school name or ESU. A lot of users have access to multiple EdOrgs, the application I mentioned. Role, which is how your access is requested or assigned. And you can have a single application role, which is like access to just one application, or you can have a multi-application role, like a data steward, which gives you access to multiple applications. And then there's also the district admin and proxy roles, and those are folks who can administrate their school's data in the new portal. So if you hear us say single app, multi-app, or district admin proxy, those are roles. Now, permissions are separate from that. As part of your role, you have access to applications. Within that application access, you have various levels of permissions. Examples of that would be read only, so maybe you can only read the data in that application, or approval, like your district administrators, they have approval permissions. So there's a lot of complexities when we're building and crafting these roles and permissions together. So if ever you go to do something in the portal and you're like, why can't I do the thing? Start a ticket with us, because we're building all these roles and permissions and potentially something wasn't built right. Hopefully we've done enough testing that it's fine, but that possibility is there. And then the other thing with permissions is, can the user approve new portal access requests? So are they a district admin? Are they a proxy? Because they have special permissions there. Talking about legacy to new portal, we have 26 applications currently in the new portal, with more in our testing portal that NDE owners are currently testing. Reading Improvement Act opens on Friday. We've got DHHS superintendent letters we're hoping to transition over, a few more, and we'll send bulletins whenever those happen. But we still have 43 collections in legacy. And so that's a big percentage of where our data is being collected. And so we're still supporting legacy, and we want to continue to transition things into new portal, but we have limitations, as do all of you, based on budget, based on people, based on time. And last year with the SLDS grant, we had lots of funds for developers. So we had lots of contractors helping us transition. Well, now we're kind of limited in the number of developers we have. So we get limited in how many applications we can actually move into new portal. So while we may have said, sure, we totally want advisor validation in new portal by the 26-27 school year, it may not happen because sometimes there's work that has to be done to get it to that place, especially with the CDC collections. Those are so built on, and this is outside of my scope of language, but built on such old technology that they basically have to rewrite the entire thing to get it so it works in the new portal. So we're going slowly but surely, but it's still gonna take some time. So, okay, I mentioned what's coming soon. Oh, this fall, this is a big one. Staff reporting will be in new portal, and it's gonna have a new look and feel. It's gonna look and feel modernized. I'm really excited about it. I think even the file upload process of that application will be smoother and easier for y'all, so that's a really good thing. And then the accreditation team is moving assurance statements into the new portal as well. So for publics, Rule 14s, Rule 10 non-publics, all of them will have one application where they'll submit their assurance statements. And then some other updates, and this is gonna slowly transition over to our guru of advisor and all things Max. But some of the changes that, because we're doing the new portal, we're having to change some other things. So like NDE staff ID and legacy, that thing is so old, that technology is so bad, we're actually gonna put it into advisor person ID. So you're gonna have both student and staff IDs in one system, which will be awesome. I don't know when it'll happen, we hope soon, but that'll transition. NSSRS validation, where you look for your staff errors and reports, that's gonna move into advisor validation. So again, we're moving staff data from a standalone system, and you'll be able to look up staff reports and stuff where you look up your student reports. So when I talked about permissions, there's gonna be different permissions for those applications based on, are you supporting staff data, are you supporting student data? And hopefully that's coming pretty quickly, but I don't know if it'll be next year. And then MIPS, which is in the CDC, will also eventually move into advisor validation and not be a standalone collection. So as that reminder, just new permissions will be created for existing applications. We may need to add new roles to create that, and we may add, so like for your data stewards, when advisor validation goes into new portal, that will automatically be a part of your role. You're not gonna have to ask for access, so that'll be like a huge win. And so we're trying to do a lot of that stuff. Like I'm working with some ESU folks to try to build a role that allows them to support their districts in a way that makes it so it's not cumbersome for the districts to provide the ESU with the access they need. We all know activation codes aren't like the bee's knees of access. So lastly, with the new portal, there are some enhancements coming, and as always, there's still bugs. We're still experiencing kind of new product pain points. So start a ticket with the service desk if you're experiencing anything unusual. But we are redesigning the homepage, the tiles, the little application tiles. We're making those a little more user-friendly. We're gonna have kind of a larger area for you to click through to open. We're clarifying some of the date language. And then a lot of the superintendents last summer asked for like an indicator where they could click on it that said, oh, I did that thing. I don't gotta look at that again. So that's hopefully coming soon. Improved description, places to view the description of these roles and permissions, so you're not guessing. Now, what does this mean? This might mean this. I'm not quite sure. We'll have the ability for you to read a description of all of those. And then we have group requests. So like a specific example would be someone at ESU 1, and they support all of their school districts in, supporting their AQuest data. And they need to look at NEP Secure for 3 of their districts. They can go into this group request, select the districts because they're listed as part of their ESU, select the ones they need access for, make one access request for NEP Secure, and then it goes to each of the superintendents who can then say, I approve, I don't approve, I approve. So it'll be nice for the ESU because then they're not making 3 to 10 to 15 requests. But if you have ideas, we were just talking about one this morning that Jill was like, no, there's no money for, but I really like it. It's dark mode of new portal. Wouldn't that be cool? So we'll see. I put it on my list. But send us ideas because we are continuing to document those ideas and putting together our wish lists. And that's our email address, which hopefully you all know. 2 tips and tricks from Stacy and Kim, who filled all the questions. If you are getting a login failed message or the portal doesn't appear to load, clear your browser cache, or try a different browser. It's kind of like the IT folks saying, have you restarted your computer? You're going to hear the same thing from Kim and Stacy and I. Have you tried a different browser, and have you cleared your cache? That's always going to be our question one. And then for district and admins and proxies, any of those emails you get that are requests for approval, that means go into the new portal and that you can hit approve in the new portal right away for those folks. Sometimes people aren't sure why they're getting the notification, or the person requests access and their superintendent doesn't see the email. So it's kind of a good reminder to just say, hey, superintendent, you got a request in the new portal. Will you just go in quick and click approve? And that's my section. So thank you, everybody. If you have questions, let us know. This is Max Reiner. You all know him and love him as our advisor guru. Yay. And he's next.
Alrighty. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the changes that we're seeing in the person ID and advisor systems. I'll have a session actually tomorrow where I'll go into more detail. But first, person ID. This is some of the changes related to what Jill was talking about, plus some that I don't know if anyone has told you yet. We are very close to finishing the work for integrating with the exempt school system. That means when parents submit exempt applications, the system will automatically send their data through person ID for matching or creating student IDs. We do get name, we get an address in the applications, we do know the student's resident district. So once we know their student, we know their names, we know their IDs, we know their resident district, that means we can now bring this data in. And we are going to be adding this new person ID resident district report. It's a report meant to tell you, just based on person ID data, which is not necessarily as reviewed and final as our advisor data, but just to let you know what students are being reported as residing in your district, even if you aren't the person who submitted them to person ID. Of another district or a non-public, or the exempt app reports them in your district, you will be able to pull down that list. Similarly, the systems involve youth system, the RISE SI system. We are collecting some of this data from the judicial system. We want to make sure we try to create person IDs or match to existing IDs for that data so that we can, do further data analysis once we know their identity. And obviously the judicial department doesn't have Nebraska student IDs attached to their data. So we're also going to use that person ID matching system for that. As Jill was saying, this isn't data that is all necessarily accessible to districts, but it will come into play in some ways, and I encourage you to attend Jill's session tomorrow if you want to know more. Here's some changes coming later. I don't have a date for yet. Again, retiring staff ID, it's one of our oldest systems. Staff and students will share an ID number, meaning they're all mixed into one bucket. Technically, if a student graduates and then later comes and works for your district, they should end up with the same ID. However, a lot of the data files that you upload, the interface doesn't necessarily make sense. So we'll probably have separate staff search and student search pages. There will be separate student file uploads and staff file uploads, but staff should work very similar to person ID for students. And I believe we are aiming to basically excise social security numbers from the system, so we no longer have that as a potential issue. Another one that Jill had hinted at, using the SLDS funds, we are specifically looking to get some help with upgrading the matching system. So the same system, in-person ID, runs when you upload a file, or if you go to the search screen and type in a partial name or whatever and search for a student. That all runs through one system to try to find, you know, the closest matches and do it quickly, but also thoroughly. It is a big kind of technical challenge compared to a lot of our other systems. So we are getting some help to kind of replace the guts of that with a more modern system that should hopefully have an algorithm that reduces near matches, I think is our #1 goal. If it runs faster, that would be good too. It should certainly not run slower. But the main goal is reduce the number of near matches, get better matches, be able to handle names spelled differently easier, and you know, hopefully just make everything in the system run smoother. All right, so moving on to Advisor. First, talking about what's going on in Advisor now. So there has been some changes to the data elements in Advisor mid-year. We did mention these like in the NDE bulletin, and we put out a new version of the Advisor data elements. That's that version 10.1 document. That's available at Advisor Resources, so hopefully everyone saw that. But if you aren't sure what I'm talking about, go find that version 10.1 document, go down to Appendix A, and I put some notes about everything that has changed. One that happened due to a change in Rule 15, that's our statute about English learners, that happened mid-year. Essentially, to summarize, students can no longer be removed from being English learners via the decision from the IEP team. What we had this marked as a flag called dismissed via IEP. From now on, the only way to exit from English learner status is via testing proficient. So we are checking, no students should be reported with that flag in the 25-26 school year. I believe we may have already talked to some districts to get them to update their data. There wasn't really a lot of this data. But if not, we will definitely be following up by the end of June. Another one, a new data, actually multiple data elements, a whole new kind of table of data. For emergency exclusions, we wanted to get this available as soon as possible to hopefully begin collecting this data this year, especially as this is brand new data. I expect there may be some hiccups with being able to report this. I also understand this is new data for student information systems. I don't think typically anyone has ever had a place in their software to record this data. I mean, this is something that is defined in statute here for Nebraska. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised we haven't ever asked to collect data on it before. Essentially, it's temporary removal of a student by the school for reasons of health, safety, or learning disruption. I'm really summarizing that. Definitely, if you are not familiar with what this is, I would urge you to go look up that statute 79-264 and get to know what that is. So we've created a set of data elements to tell us what students are being excluded under that statute, the date they were excluded, and then which of the 3 reasons I mentioned broadly are the cause. We have set up the backbone for this data to be able to be submitted by the SIS vendors. I don't know if every vendor has fully pushed out the update to collect and send this data. Please talk to your vendors if you are not familiar. Hopefully, though, we could get some data from everybody this year. I think it will be good to take some time to get familiar with this and really understand what you're sending. A couple of notes I already expect will be relevant about that. Emergency exclusions are separate data elements from discipline. I can imagine scenarios where someone receives emergency exclusion and then that might lead to an expulsion or something. Those are two different pieces of data to me. There's the initial emergency exclusion, and then separately there could be discipline incidents, actions, etc., other data tied to that. You still need to report that data the same as before. Adding this new thing doesn't take that away from needing to be reported. I understand a lot of the SIS vendors are collecting this data in the same area though, so that way it may seem a little bit confusing, but yeah, they are two different things. Also, yeah, just like during out-of-school suspension, a student probably should be counted as absent, assumingly they're not getting any services or education, and that could apply to emergency exclusions as well. I am really going to push, though, starting in 26-27, hopefully we get this data entered throughout the year as it's happening. No need to go back and try to catch up at the end of the year. And obviously, we need to help you validate that data. We need to create the feedback systems to let you know what's being reported so you can determine if it's wrong or not. So we will be adding a report, at least one report to help with this. We will kind of feel out what needs to be reported, if we need more aggregate reports or some combination of discipline and exclusion reports. Whatever makes sense, just let us know and we will work with that. Some other changes for advisor validation. The student lookup by ID, that's a very common screen we all use. This already went out a few months ago. I hope you've noticed. There is now a drop-down picker menu where you can pick between seeing the live data, the locked fall data, or locked year-end data, if you're looking at 24-25. We were having so many problems trying to determine what data has actually been sent up when trying to work with late requests after the fact. So this is a quick tool we were able to get out just to help let you know what's going on with the data. The student lookup by ID screen is really just, we try to display almost every field you submit for a student should be on that screen. And some of them, like I just mentioned, emergency exclusion, that's new. We don't have it there yet, but that's definitely something we will be looking at. Also, before the end of the year, we are looking to get a new student-level data report out about post-secondary readiness. This is still being worked on right now, but Derek's here. He's got an entire session specifically about post-secondary readiness. If you aren't familiar with what's going on with the new AQuest metrics that are coming for next year, I would definitely recommend attending some of those. We hope to get this data so that you could see it in the year end, though, when the data is due. So, coming hopefully May, June, or maybe summer. We're still working on it. The Student Educational Record Report. This is a new report that's meant for registrars. It is part of the System Involved Youth effort. Essentially, this is a report that is meant to assist registrars with seeing data for students who've transferred in. We are still deciding exactly what goes on the report. The general idea is if this student is in your district now, you've reported them as enrolled, that will allow you to see some data from their previous district to kind of help quickly push things along as much as possible with getting all their data into your district for, their new home. I marked this one as a stretch goal because as I look at how many things are on this list, I'm not sure when we get to it. I really want to get to this before July, though. Going on about what I had mentioned about the student lookup and errors, we want to actually build the system that allows you to run validation errors against locked data and live data. Right now, the errors only ever run in the live data, which is good up until we hit that due date, and that's when we create a copy of your data that's locked and things can start to branch and separate. And so that can make it very difficult to tell, has this data been fixed, or has it been fixed live, but it hasn't been reported to us to get it included in the locked data. So I really want to get that out for you, though, and that will help our process a lot with catching up on late requests after due dates. All right. Advisor changes coming for next year. This is something I've been previewing in monthly meetings I have with the SIS vendors. So they are aware of these already. First of all, no new big version upgrade in the backbone of the Ed5 system. We did that last year. We will continue with our plan of going at least 2 years before we do this big back-end upgrade. We always will kind of continue to do that, though, as data standards change and technology changes. We are staying on board. Last year, I put a bunch of fields and got them removed from our advisor data collection because I did not see them really having a use to NDE. There's some more I am adding this year. The expected high school graduation. This field has never really been used. A lot of you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. I think it was meant for students who were enrolled in one place but get their diploma from somewhere else. However, in practice, we just ask that you enroll a student and report the 210 exit code wherever they are graduating from. Also, with the okay from the special ed office, we are getting rid of this Part C to B transition delay reason. We determined it wasn't really valid to be used in our federal accountability reporting. Can't go into all the details, but essentially, there is, I don't believe there is a valid reason for students to not transition, as I understand it, but I won't go into the details too much. Another change coming from system-involved youth efforts. We have a new exit withdrawal code, the 218, completer with state high school diploma. So these students will be treated like a 210. They count as graduates. They have a diploma. This is just there to let us tell what students are receiving one of these new state-defined diplomas. They are still graduating from your district, though, and count in graduate metrics, and pretty much everywhere that we see a 210 code, a 218 code will go with it. English learner, there's a few updates coming here. First of all, especially regarding students that used to have this dismissed via IEP, those are still valid. In 24-25, you may have reported a student who was dismissed from EL via IEP. However, that flag's not available in the future, as well as just trying to simplify what you report for students who have been redesignated fluent by testing proficient. So our guidance is just, if you have students who have ever been fluent, just continue to report them, who have ever been marked as redesignated fluent or dismissed via IEP, just continue to report them as redesignated fluent. That makes it simpler for your side. We have a report called the redesignation report. That report pulls data from the first year we ever saw a student marked as redesignated, and what you report now doesn't change that. But if you are looking at your current year data and you forgot that this person was redesignated, then this is, by reporting the data that way, it makes it less confusing. Also, while we were kind of talking things out with our English learner team, we realized that there was a case that I think has been a problem, but no one's really reported it to us, that you can have students who their primary or dominant language is not English, but in that initial screener, they test as fluent, and so those are not EL students. In the past, I'm guessing people just kind of marked them as their dominant language is English and moved on. This way, we're going to add a new flag so you can let us know who are those students who were proficient on the screener and are not EL eligible going forward, and we won't throw any errors. You can tell us what language they actually speak as their dominant language. We're dipping our toes into some of the reading and data. We are adding a program, IRIP, at least that's how I pronounce it, Individualized Reading Improvement Plans. This is a very simple program data collection for students. You're telling us what students are on this plan, what was the begin date when they got on it, and if they get off the plan, what's the end date. So no other fields collected at this time, but certainly in the future, we are hoping to get assessment results integrated and see a lot of things in Advisor that contribute to the Reading Improvement Act. But this is just kind of our first baby step in it for the Advisor world. Now, I want to give a little background here because this involves a lot of acronyms. So first, there is CEDS, the Common Education Data Standards. This is a common set of data standards defining every piece of data that you could report about education. This is created by National Center for Education Statistics. It's part of the Department of Ed. You can go to ceds.ed.gov if you wanted to learn more about that. This has a lot of overlap with EdFi. EdFi has data standards as well, and we are most directly linked into the EdFi world, but federal reporting is also linked to CEDS. Luckily, both CEDS and EdFi are kind of coming together and merging into one data standard closer and closer over time. But I bring that up because there is this group that is working on defining a national model for special education data. So that's the SEDM, Special Education Data Model. They have a little info page. There's not much there now, ceds-sedm.org. Essentially, they want to create a fuller picture of special education data as what we have in EdFi right now, and CEDS, I assume, is not really capturing the full picture. So they want to be as comprehensive as possible. I'm sure their goal is to cover everything for federal accountability reporting. We're not diving in and redefining all of our special education data yet. We are stepping in, though, by starting to collect the IDEA events data. I'll just kind of briefly cover that here. I'll talk about it a little bit more at my session about Advisor for 26-27. Essentially, this is to collect dates of events specifically related to initial evaluations for students. The goal would be to be able to supply data for indicator 11, which is about the number of days between the parental consent given and the actual evaluation meeting occurring. This can also be reported for students who aren't currently enrolled in your district, as long as you create some type of student school association enrollment record. They have a state student ID. You can make a record with 0 FTE, and now you can send us evaluation data about them. Here's just to kind of give you an idea of the structure. These will be the code values that you could pick from. Only some of these codes are directly related to that indicator 11 metric. However, I added a few more on here that I think are helpful for the process. There's some codes here that tell you when the evaluation isn't continuing. And those aren't directly part of that metric, but I think this is a good list. This is taken from the national list, which had like 25 options, so I think this is reasonable. And also a flag where you can tell us, is this an initial evaluation or not, basically. And the other non-initial evaluations, I think we probably consider that data optional, but I don't know why you wouldn't submit it. Lastly, on the new data elements that we're looking at, this is something that was part of Advisor before. It was a little bit undefined, though. And in the old versions of Advisor, we thought we would have course transcript data just to be useful for a data dashboard, which we don't even offer the data dashboard now. But in order to help things with our goals with systems involve youth and being able to ensure that students can quickly transfer and have their data move with them, we think it will be important to collect course transcript data and student academic record. Those two pieces of data in EdFi are linked together. For students, especially high school students, going forward. So I really see 26-27 as a trial year for this. We will define what fields in course transcript we are interested in collecting, which ones we don't need to care about. I will be working with all the SIS vendors to make sure they are supporting the fields and that they could be entered. And I think we will have to kind of see how this one goes. This is a big data set. It has caused some technical issues in the past. We want to, again, reevaluate, is this going to be a problem for everyone? So it'll really be a trial year, but I'm hoping we can identify the issues and actually solve them this time. Oh yeah, also making sure that we can support external data. So if you have students who've transferred in, they have courses from out of state or something, or you have students who are getting some external like asynchronous distance learning, and that's data that you didn't have on your course schedule now, this could be the way to report it. So some of the reasons that we're interested in this, like I said, we don't really have dates on when this will happen, but the #1 goal is transcript data made available for everything related to state graduation plans and system-involved youth. Full transcript data hopefully available on the new student educational report for the registrars. And something that I know a few districts have asked for a while, possibly we can use a combination of the scheduled section and course offering data along with course transcripts and mix that together to give us the final picture of what courses students should be getting credit for in the current year, such as for instructional units, endorsements, career and tech ed, Perkins data. I can't really make a promise about any of those yet. It really depends on the quality of the data as it comes in, but we will certainly be talking about that. All right, thanks everyone for sitting through all the fun tech stuff. If anyone had any questions, you could let us know, or if you didn't want to talk to us personally, that's certainly a great option. We have sessions coming up. We'll be available around as well. Just to give you an idea, some of the sessions, we talked about Jill's session, System Involved Youth. I mentioned AQuest. I didn't even try to list all of them. I think Derek's doing like I don't know, 5 different sessions. My data publishing updates for 26, 27, and others, I'm on the schedule a lot. School finance, literacy, there's a lot of literacy sessions. I couldn't list them all. Data steward roundtable that I believe Naomi and the service desk will be there just for feedback. Session about JitBit, our ticketing system. one from the special ed office here, behind SPP APR and NE counts. So, lastly, here's our credits. I think everyone knows our email addresses by now, but there's all the ones you need to know. Lastly, reminder, if we didn't mention this, the Crystal 1 room down the hall to the right, you can talk to vendors there, the service desk, and other NDE people are there. The statewide assessment group is there if you want to talk to them. There's coffee, tea, water. I believe we have snacks coming there in the next break, or if not this one, then later. And there will be some of that tomorrow as well. All right, thanks. That's all the notes.
Okay, what a great tipper into what the next breakout sessions will be. Please take a few minutes for a bio break, get hydrated, splash some coffee on your face, and be ready for the next breakout session. Thank you.